Welcome to the Sound Leadership Podcast for the silent superheroes of L&D, HR and leadership. Hit subscribe, give us a follow and leave your comments. What exactly are soft skills and why do they matter more than ever for leaders? Welcome to Sound Leadership, the podcast for the silent superheroes of L&D, HR and leadership. The show that helps you build awareness and inspire personal responsibility through action. I'm your host, Dan Boniface, and with me is co-host Darren Draper. In this episode, we're breaking down the real power of soft skills, where they come from, why they're the leadership differentiator, and how you can practice and develop them to enable high performance in your teams. Stay with us until the end, where we share our top 3 leadership sound bites to help you apply soft skills in your workplace. If you like what we're talking about, leave us some comments, let us know your thoughts on soft skills, and don't forget to hit subscribe and share with others as well. Darren, good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Let's dive in then. Let's talk about soft skills, or human skills as I call them. What importance do you place on these in terms of leadership?
They're the top of the tree, and I think they've come a bit more into relevance now as other technologies and processes have come into play. So a lot of the skills that possibly recruiters were looking for with regard to data science or technical skills, automation and AI are starting to allow those skills to be developed to everyone. So actually, if we're looking at those processing skills or those hard skills possibly as being in an automation zone, then it means that human connection needs to come out. And that's where soft skills comes in, because I think that's what will be the difference going forward, is actually how can that automation assist with helping create better human connection in leadership?
Yeah, so you mentioned a few things there. And let's start at the beginning then of where this came from. And let's define the difference between hard skills and soft skills within that as well. And I think these are phrases that we've probably heard of, but quite tricky to explain. And when you really delve into the soft skills, they become even trickier. And then they take us down these huge rabbit holes because there's so much to it. It's so complex. And what we're going to do is just simplify some of this and give some examples around the soft skills that you may have heard of that we can continue to develop, but also some new ones that you maybe haven't heard of before. Before we do that then, let's go back in history. So during the 1960s, the US Army actually coined the phrase hard skills and soft skills. And hard skills were the things that we did technically. So building some equipment, building a tank, building some guns, managing your guns, keeping them as they should be, so keeping them functioning. It's the things that we can learn in terms of knowledge aspects. And then the soft skills was everything else. It was the leadership aspects, the human connections, the building of the relationships that are going to get people on board and to get buy-in, to get commitment from humans. And the way they looked at it was that hard skills win battles and soft skills win wars. What's interesting as we go through time, that started off in the 60s. As we fast forward and we go into the 80s and the 90s, businesses were starting to adopt soft skills a lot more. So things like teamwork, customer service, leadership skills, relationship building came to the fore. And then in the 90s, Daniel Goleman was very prominent and still is, and it's well worth reading his book, Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence. He really looked into it and really started to understand what emotional intelligence was. And now there's thoughts that emotional intelligence are as important as IQ in being successful in your career. Whatever successful means in terms of your career, that's an individual thought process. But it took that long. But also, and we've had a recent guest on, Chris Roebuck, on one of the episodes, talking about neuroscience. Our brains haven't changed that much in 2 million years. It's the same processes going on in our brains. It's the work aspect that's changed. So we've always had soft skills. We just didn't necessarily know about them, or they're more prominent now. There's more importance placed on them. A little example around this is with Starbucks, and one of the reasons they continue to do well as a business is Howard Schultz, the former CEO, came from working class background where empathy, emotional intelligence, soft skills were at the forefront of his family and his upbringing, and he brought that into his working life. And he took Starbucks from a small sort of country shop to a global empire, and he brought those soft skills into the business. So from top to bottom and vice versa, everyone was leading with empathy. Everyone cared about their employees. Everyone was building human connections. And that is why when you go to Starbucks, they ask you for your name and they write it on the coffee cup. It's that human connection. It's that feel-good factor when you go into somewhere and you feel like someone cares about you, someone values you.
And also you've been seen. You are not just a customer. Think of that older person that lives on their own, that goes out and gets a coffee, that most people just pass them by and they're not seen during a day. They'll walk into Starbucks and someone will ask their name. Suddenly they become important again, and that they feel seen, and hopefully that puts a smile on their face that I think's really important.
Yeah, and these are things that you can do in your business. Small gestures, seemingly small gestures, but these are the soft skills. And this is why we use that example, because it's the power of the soft skill. The hard skill, incidentally, is the ability to take the order, is the processing the payment, is the writing the name on the coffee cup. The soft skill is how you then deliver that to the customer. Let's just be clear as well, soft and hard don't mean easy and difficult. It's just a different term. So typically we'd look at hard as being the knowledge aspects, the technical aspects, and soft is more the human element, which is why I often refer to it as the human skills. Just one more bit of information before we get into it in a bit more detail, but a LinkedIn study shows that 92% of talent professionals say that soft skills matter as much or more than hard skills. And McKinsey also did some research around this, and the demand for soft skills from their managers is on the rise. It's becoming even more prominent. So my advice to you as leaders listening to this is to keep developing those soft skills, which we can absolutely do.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to put them on your CV. It's really hard to show I'm a good communicator or I show high emotional intelligence in an interview in an hour. But if 92% say that they put that above it, then you need to put it in people's faces. So actually, don't be afraid to put it on there. I'm a good public speaker, or I show high emotional intelligence, and then promote that in your interview. Because it's really easy to show those hard skills, because normally they're tied up in a level 7 qualification, or I'm past my data analyst and things like that. Easy. It's on a CV. They can see it. Some of those soft skills are harder to show. So show them. Put them on your CV, because actually they're really important, as those studies show.
Yeah, and I think they're becoming even more important as well. When you look at the evolution, AI has been around a long time now, longer than we think. But yes, it's absolutely crucial. It's beneficial, and get on board, because you get left behind if you're not using AI. But also, you still need human intelligence to go with it as well, because of the human interaction. Let's talk about some of the most crucial soft skills then. Give us a bit of a breakdown of these.
Yeah, so soft skills, I think, we'll start with communication, as a whole, and sort of break those down into 5 key skills, which we see. And they include active listening. So that means I am listening to understand. So many times we're talking to someone in or outside work, and in our head we're going, well, this is what I want to say, or this is the outcome that I want. Active listening switches that and moves us into a position of going, what am I going to learn from what they're saying? So that means you don't need to respond a second after they've finished. You are just listening, you're going to absorb it, and then you might talk, you might ask a question, you might give your opinion, but you're still looking to learn from that conversation. We're so quick in life at the moment that we want one thing and then the next. Just listen learn, grow, and that just comes from continuous.
I'll add to that. There's a great book, Michael Bungay Stanier, his name is, and it's called The Advice Trap. And we have these advice monsters in us. Tell it, save it, control it. And when someone's talking to you, and I feel myself doing it when you're talking to me here, because I'm enjoying the conversation, but I want to give my point of view as well. And these monsters start to come to the fore. And this book teaches us how to control those and use the power of silence. And then we can actively listen rather than just listen where it goes in one ear and out the other.
I mean, Rackham, one of his studies, calls it shutting out. Because actually you're not actually listening, you just want to give your opinion. And even though you think you're not showing it, you do. You know, we've all been in that meeting where people like bunny hop to the edge of their chair because they're so excited about what they're going to say. Well, they're not listening to what the other person's saying. So moving into that active listening of what can I learn from someone else? Even if it doesn't change my opinion, it doesn't matter. I've now got more information to back up my opinion.
Awareness, right?
Completely. You know, next is around that storytelling. And what we mean about storytelling isn't about how can you bring a story into everything, but how can you make it relatable to the person you're talking to so they fully understand it? So this means, what level am I talking to people at? What technical jargon am I bringing it into? How can I bring it into a story about their day or their understanding? Because sometimes, especially as leaders, we're wary of giving too much information, giving the whole picture, because we want to keep that information for X, Y, Z reason. And a lot of the time we think we're protecting someone, but what we're doing is we're stealing that awareness from them to make an active choice. We're actually giving them part of the information that means the outcome that they're going to choose may not be the right outcome because they're missing out that information. So just making sure that they're understanding it, and a lot of the time that's bringing it into a story about their working life or something that they can relate to. And that adds into that adaptability. How do we adapt to the person in front of us? You know, let's go back to that give-get principle that we talk about. Our get is we want someone to do something, and we'll send them an email. And we'll get a reply back going, I don't quite understand. And most of the time we blame them. We go, well, why don't I wrote it clearly in an email for you. But we've got to be adaptable. Is an email for them the right course of communication? So actually, let's think about that other person and go, they don't understand. I can't change them, but I can change me. So what am I going to give to that situation to understand them better, to adapt my communication style, my tone, the jargon that I'm using, so then I get what I want out of this because they fully understand what I'm asking them to do.
Let's give a bonus soft skill on that then, so that's called digital body language. So where we understand through our digital communications, emails, WhatsApps, messages, social media, the impact that's going to have on the other person. So let's just bring it back when we talk about face-to-face body language. I think most of us have an understanding of what that looks like, and we can make some assumptions around how someone's feeling or reacting to something. Slightly harder from a digital perspective, but it's trying to think ahead and think, right, okay, so if I write this in this tone, what impact's that going to have on that individual? What does that individual want me to, how do they want me to structure that communication? Are they someone that likes bullet points? Are they like someone that likes to read a bit of text? Do they want me to use their name at the beginning? Do they want me to do a, how are you? How was your holiday? Or do we just go straight in and, hey, look, here's the points that we discussed on the phone. Off you go. So it's about understanding the other person still.
100%. And I think, probably the most important soft skill for me is around that emotional intelligence. And a lot of people that haven't studied emotional intelligence or looked into it think it's all about understanding someone else. But it starts with you and understanding you and your feelings and your knowledge and your situation. It requires reflection, and it requires that deep understanding that I can learn from others as well. Because the first part of Daniel Goleman's model is that self-awareness. So when I'm about to have a conversation or I'm listening, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Is this the right time to have this conversation? Why am I having this conversation? What do I want out of it? What do I think that other person wants out of it? Because when I start understanding my emotions, but not judging my emotions, I can then adapt my behaviours from it. I can really then start to go, right, because I know this person that's in front of me, I like how they want, I understand how they want to be communicated to, I can adapt my style. I understand their knowledge base, so I'm making sure I'm using the right tone of jargon. I can bring in this story because they've done something in the past. And that's when we start adapting our behaviours, so then we're making them feel important, we're making them understand what we're asking them, and we can start to get a better outcome. And only after we understand ourselves and control our own behaviours can we then focus on that other person. And that's showing true empathy, that's understanding their motivation, and then how we use our social skills, going back to that active listening, storytelling, all of that, to make sure we aim for that win-win situation that Stephen Covey talks about as well.
I'll give a quick story around this and the power of emotional intelligence, the power of soft skills, and how that helps us build resilience as well. And without them, leaders will struggle to connect, motivate, influence their teams. And I came into a business and they were on the verge of losing a £500,000 contract with one client because the delegates had not been listened to. They had some problems with the service. It wasn't what they expected, but they'd not been listened to at all. And my approach was, okay, I've got to take the bull by the horns, and I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get you all in a room and I'll be with you for a couple of hours, let it all out, vent, give me everything. And by the way, this isn't easy to do and it's not nice. However, by me demonstrating those soft or those human skills, I managed to get all those delegates back on board because I actively listened to them. And then it's, what are you doing next? What action am I putting into place? What personal responsibility am I taking for that I can go and contribute to solve this situation? To a point where they're all back on board, the contract is saved, and all of a sudden they're all thriving and moving through with their qualifications and their training. And that all came from soft skills. That wasn't hard skills. That wasn't my knowledge around the industry, the qualifications, the business. It was me going in and listening to them and giving them a voice. And again, it's the give, isn't it? It's the, hey, look, I'll come in and you guys go. You tell me everything and then we can make some changes.
Yeah.
Talk to us about some of the ones that we may not be so familiar with.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people would have heard of what we talked about before, and it'd be really good as a reflection after this episode for people to have a think about, where do they rate themselves on some of those soft skills, and then some of the stuff that they could develop, also some of the stuff that they're already really good at that they can further elevate. So, with leadership changing and adapting over time, with automation and AI coming in, there's some new, or probably not new, but there's some new, elevated, let's say, soft skills of importance. So things such as reflective thinking. So, I just said it there. How many times as leaders do we actually stop and go, how did that go? Or how am I going to go into this conversation or this meeting? Because what we tend to have is a concrete experience, as Kolb's learning cycle says. But without reflection, we're never going to grow. So we keep having these bad experiences or great experiences, but we never learn from it because we don't have that reflection time. We don't move into that self-awareness and go, how am I going to regulate? How am I going to change? What am I going to do different? Abstract conceptualization from Kolb's learning cycle. And they're so important. And I'm currently doing a couple of qualifications, and both of those qualifications force you to have reflection. So that's how important it is, because basically it goes, you can have all this technical knowledge, but you're never going to change without that reflection, because that's the point where you go, I get the technical bit, but what do I think? Because the only person that's going to change my life or going to change my behaviours is me, not that textbook. So I need that reflection to understand what I'm going to choose to do.
And reflection can happen in any moment. This doesn't, it may be journaling. It may be that you get up first thing in the morning and you write all your thoughts down. It may be that you do that last thing at night. But it also may be that when you're in your car, you just have 2 minutes. You know, when you're listening to this podcast and those thoughts start to come into your head, just pause it for 2 minutes, reflect, and then come back into the podcast. And I do that regularly. I typically listen to podcasts, audiobooks in the car. I find it a really great use of my time. But I have to pause it because my mind goes into other things, because what I've heard has inspired and triggered some thoughts. So take that moment, and we move away from listening to a podcast to actively listening to a podcast, because then we're doing something with the information. And as you say, that's the bit that makes the change. It's Darren and I cannot change this for you. We can give the tips and the tools and the information, build that awareness, and then it's you taking personal responsibility for making that happen.
100%. I saw something the other day from Harvard Business Review that encouraged people to be bored, because that's when reflection will come. We've got so many stimulus happening around us. It's really hard to be bored now. But sometimes that's what you need, is to get rid of that stimulus, be bored, let those thoughts sit there in your head, and then suddenly the inspiration will come from within instead of an external source.
I've spoken about this before when I was in an MRI scanner and in there for an hour, and you can't do anything apart from think. And it was a great, I'm not recommending go and get an MRI scan to do this, but it was a great opportunity for reflection. I was sat in Quick Fit the other day, getting the tyres changed, just sat there, didn't get my phone out, didn't get a laptop out. And it's just an opportunity to sit and reflect and think about some things. And again, you know, maybe not the ideal place, but we all live busy lives. It's taking those moments to reflect when you can.
100%. And, you know, I think that goes on to that self-regulation. It's the second part of Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence model. But again, it's creating that reflection time. How am I feeling? What am I thinking? What went well? What didn't? To then move into that self-regulation of going, okay, what behaviours do I want to show? I'm not going to judge myself for my past performance, but actually if that went really well, what did I do to make it go really well? You know, as leaders, when things go right, we go, what a fantastic team have I got? Okay, what have you done to create a fantastic team? Because you're part of it. So, but you need that reflection time to go, I done ABC and I now need to elevate that because I want an even better team, or I might go to a new team, and those are the things I'm going to do.
I was coaching someone recently with that, and she'd employed someone, been with her for a year, complete success, thought she was going to be good, even better than she expected. And I said, what have you done towards that? She said, nothing, she's just really good. No, you've contributed a lot to this, and you should be proud of your contribution to it. And don't take all the credit, because clearly there's the other person involved in this. It's collaboration. But again, you know, as a leader, recognize what you've done well, and then harness that and use that and replicate it in other areas of your life, into other areas of the business, when you recruit the next person, whatever that might be. Replicate this stuff because it works. And I'll just caveat that with, it's not one size fits all. We've got to adapt to the person, but learn from the good stuff as well as the things that didn't quite go to plan.
Completely. That's going back to those original 5 that I think are really important. I guess navigating ambiguity. There's so much data now that sometimes, especially when I've worked in change management and process change, we let perfection get in the way of good. So actually we need things to be perfect before they're implemented. But you go back to Japanese methodology, continuous improvement. Actually, you need something live to learn from it. So it's never going to be perfect. So put those changes in, try those things and learn from it. It'll create awareness at worst. What I always think is, if you carry on doing what you're always doing, you're just going to get the result you've got. Try something new. In a worst case scenario, you just go back doing to what you've already done, and you can get those results again. But your potential and other people's potential for growth.
We work with a lot of businesses that do this, that keep banging their head against the wall by doing the same thing. Change something, change anything. And in the word has negative connotations, but in failure come your biggest learning. Take those opportunities to try it out. And you can, if I talk in our world, for us, that's if we are implementing a new course, we pilot it. So we might take the executive board and we pilot it with them, we get their feedback, and then we roll it out to the rest of the organisation with some tweaks around it, because then we understand the business more, we understand the values, the vision, the objectives, etc., etc. So find those times to pilot, and if it goes wrong, no problem at all. It doesn't mean your idea was bad, or it might be that you don't sell to that customer. It doesn't mean the idea is bad. It just means it's not right for them. There's other opportunity out there. So let's not be afraid of trying things out and reflecting off the back of it.
And sometimes doing that when you're performing well is the important time to do it. You look at sports teams, it's those that invest when they win things that stay at the top. They don't wait till it depreciates to a level where they're now fourth or fifth in a league, and then I'm going to invest. Those top teams invest when they're at the top, and businesses and departments should do the same.
With the old cliche, never change a winning team. Well, if you never change that, at some point they won't win. And it's the same in business. If you're standing still and you're stagnant, actually you're going backwards because everyone is going past you, and your business will struggle. It's always about adapting and developing and having flexibility, and keep pushing the boundaries, keep driving those standards high.
Definitely. And I think we've thrown a lot of skills at people with the soft skills. So I guess the big question that probably a lot of people are asking, Dan, is how do we practice and develop these soft skills?
Number one for me, reflective practice, as we've already spoken about. But what really has the impact here is the awareness responsibility model that we've devised, that has come out of years and years worth of training, coaching people, research, personal experiences and development. And when we look at the awareness responsibility model, we go through 5 aspects of this. So we start with awareness. We always start there. And this is building awareness of, as you said earlier on with emotional intelligence, understanding ourselves and understanding others. Seek first to understand, then be understood. Let's build a picture of what's going on, of the situation. So this is people-based and it's situational-based. Once we've built awareness, we're then able to open up options. And this is the point, you and I have spoken about this many times, and we can go into so much depth about it, about working with people, listening to people in life. I haven't got a choice. I've got nowhere to go. You've always got a choice. It doesn't make it easy, but there's always a choice. You can carry on doing what you're doing, or you can make a change. And when we build awareness around that of, I can carry on doing what I'm doing, right, that's option 1. I can make a change. Okay, so what change could I make? It could be a shift across in the business. It could be a sideways move. It could be a downwards move because you're not happy and you want to go back to being more of the technical, hands-on components rather than the manager in the team. There's all sorts of things that we can do. But once we build that awareness and we get those options on the table, then we're able to make a sound choice. We're able to look at this strategically, logically, and make a really sound decision of the best way to move forwards. Again, that only gets us so far, because then it's about your action. What are you going to do that puts that into action? How are you going to be proactive? What behaviours are you going to implement that allow you to move forwards? Once you've done that, you then take personal responsibility for what you've done. And the power of this, when you're working with others, when you're leading others, is that you have fully empowered someone to take personal responsibility. You've not told them what to do, because you've built awareness, they've built awareness, you've worked out the options, they have decided on the best route forwards because they are the expert in your team. Therefore, they've got ownership, accountability, responsibility. They're motivated because it's theirs, because they are buying into their own idea, and that is personal responsibility. And that is how you get these soft skills to sit in, and that is the impact on a business.
Yeah. So it's It's that reflection. Listening today, we've talked about some soft skills. There are many more out there. Just reflect. How good are you at them? How aren't you good at some? How are you going to start developing? How are you going to practice them? It starts with that reflection, because these are daily practices. And I would challenge people to think about the most high-performing team they're in. Because I would say the most high-performing team I work in is when I return to my house after work. And no one in that house loves me because I empty the dishwasher well, or I cook dinner well. It's all based on those soft skills that I use, how I communicate, how I show emotional intelligence. And if that's the most high-performing team I'm in, what I should be asking myself is, how do I incorporate that learning from that high-performing team into the workplace? How do I connect with other human beings on a level maybe not quite as high as that, but close, because that's the most trusting environment I'm ever in. That's the environment where we work together most, and it's the environment where we have each other's back the most. And I tell you, if I worked in a place like that, you would never want to leave. So how can you create that environment in the workplace? Because that's what soft skills does. That's what soft skills elevate a workplace to, and that's where soft skills elevates performance to.
Top 3 leadership soundbites.
Top 3. So, soft skills are the leadership edge that enable missing high performance. So actually, if a team's not performing to that highest level, what soft skills are missing? Because chances are you recruited those hard skills. Empathy and storytelling are the foundations of trust and culture, and will improve both of those quicker than any process change. And awareness and practice turns soft skills into those leadership superpowers. Practice them every day, inside and outside of work. But most importantly, use your reflection time to go, what am I going to do differently? Or what am I going to do more of to help the situation?
We both believe that work life is all one thing, right? So when we talk about transferable skills, let's not differentiate. Right, this is my work stuff, so I need these skills. This is my home life, I need these skills. This is my social life, I need these skills. These soft skills, these human skills, you will use in all elements of your day, of your life. If you take negotiation, and we did a podcast with Scott Walker, one of the world's top hostage negotiators, we are negotiating multiple times throughout any day. So as a soft skill, as a human skill, we're doing that. We're practicing that in all elements of our life. So keep practicing all of these soft skills. Identify the ones that you're great at and hone those. And the ones that you feel that are a little bit tougher, keep practicing those. Take those opportunities, reflect on it, do the so what, and then try it out again. Try it out, because then practice will get you into a place where you're happy and you're comfortable, and it just becomes natural in the way that you do it. Look, the real power of soft skills is that they're not the nice to haves. They're essential for leadership. So keep developing them. Build up your awareness around it, create more options, and then you can make better choices. And then you'll inspire action and personal responsibility for you and for your teams, whoever your team is, whether that's your family, your work colleagues, your social setting, your community, whatever that might be. But keep practicing and keep building that awareness, and you'll follow through to personal responsibility. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed that and found a lot of insight from there, and that's inspired you to keep developing your soft skills. Leave us some comments and let us know what the one soft skill is that you are going to develop over the next couple of weeks. And good luck, and thank you very much for listening. The Sound Leadership Podcast was produced by Media First. To learn more about the media crisis and communications training, visit mediafirst.co.uk. The editor and producer was Darren Wingham. The show was hosted, written and researched by me, Dan Boniface. A special thanks to all the team at Media First and the BCF Group for supporting the development of this podcast. To learn more about the management, leadership, training and coaching that the BCF Group offer, visit thebcfgroup.co.uk or get in touch by emailing hello@thebcfgroup.co.uk. Finally, a special thanks to our exceptional guest today, who you can contact via the BCF group.